Shorties.
Hi, Shorties. Fingers crossed, StreamYard's being a little bitch tonight, apparently. Very frustrating when we're professionals here. I'm fucking professional.
She's a fucking professional. No, goddamn it.
Miss Shorty, you're muted. Miss Shorty, you're muted.
Fuck, I was...
Endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fade breaks, staying hydrated. It's shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Trial watching trials and tribulations. It's Camp Shorty calling all nations. What are you drinking? Shall we skip this part? Left or right-handed? Shit, she slid it to the start. She's a fucking professional. Yo, goddammit. You're muted. What? I'm daring, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fade breaks, staying hydrated. It's shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Psychology corner. Let's learn about stuff. New Miss Shorty music. Calling their bluff. Best chat, best community. We've got the best mods. A safe, supportive sanctuary full of fun and love. Rock out with your cats down. Curse all you want. And here at Camp Shorty, we even say God. She's a fucking professional. You goddamn it. You're muted. What? And daring, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fade breaks, staying hydrated. It's shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Hey, shorties, what's doing, y'all? Get in here, shorties. Let's fucking go. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. She got that merch power. She got that merch now. Get that Miss Shorty merch how? Get it from the Miss Shorty merch shop now. Oh my
Moose are dicks.
Hi! I forgot to put myself on the stage. Hi, Shorties. It's like, hi, good to see you. Hi, Shorties. Hi, it's so good to see you. Long time no see. Hi, dogs. Quick change. Change into my, I love this one. Excuse me. Down you get. No pixies. You've already had yours for tonight. My Disney Dystopia Miss Shorty merch top on. Love. 10-10. Changed my earrings and everything. What do we got? Oh, I haven't worn these before on stream, I don't think. They're cheese and a mouse. There's a mouse down there dangling off the bottom. Eee. How are you? It's good to see you, Buster. You're affecting my green screen. I good to see you. That's just in oh my god, my glasses are dirty. I can't actually see you. Hang on. Although I did see Candy say bong time, so get it into you, girl. Oh god, they're worse. Good Lord. Poppy, I'm not prepared. I thought I was so good. getting started on time. Poppy, don't lick me. Hi. This is always. Thank you, Ms. What the fuck. This is always the most hectic of all of the Camp Shorty moments, right? The final stream of the weekend. Let me just clean these glasses because I'm not sure what's worse.
Moose
Zero
or dicks?
glasses or dirty glasses. Thanks, Ms. What the fuck. Moose are dicks. Don't forget, at the moment, until the end of the month, there's a special gift with purchase. It's a cute little thankful fox candle. If you spend 50, oh my god, they're still dirty. Oh my god, I don't know. I'm not a professional. Like, I'm literally not a professional. Not in a neurotypical way, anyway. That's for sure. Okay, KK, that'll do. Maybe I can see now. Let's see. It'll do for now. Better than it was. Hi. Shelley's here. Simmy's here. Candy's here. Thanks. Yes. I love the little teas. I mean, it's not a Gwyneth Paltrow scent. No, they're unscented, I believe. They're unscented. Just cute and good for those of us who might have aversions to scented things being perhaps overly so. We are not professionals, but thanks, Simi. Hey, well, before I get into it, may as well while it's here. Replay crew, hi. Everything will be timestamped down below for you, but if you would like to watch the live chat replay on your handheld device, yikes, they're still dirty. Your Android, your iPhone, Poppy's panting, the tablet, the iPad, easy peasy. All you do is go to those few little dots on the comment tab up top right hand corner, swipe left, and it'll give you the option to watch the live chat replay instead. Yikes. How are they dirtier after I clean them? Not sure. It's just how I roll. Wait. That's gonna have to do. I can't even with myself. Wow. Why would you do that to me? Wait. Oh, I just did it to myself as well. God, terrifying. I put my glasses on and then I'm a giant on my own screen. Terrifying.
There's a very, very important conversation happening in the chat.
What is it? Is it about weed? No. What?
It's
Moose?
about moose dick and the way it's smell. And I just want you to know that. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and now I'm gonna.
But do you know how they? Don't! That's so mean. It's way too big. That's what she said. Yeah, the timestamps are cool. Not that I can imagine why anyone would want to skip through any of my very pertinent conversations and the things, the side quests and stuff. But it's there. It's there for you. So, Shelley, do you know? Is this a question like, like an attorney where you don't ever ask a question that you don't know the answer to? I'm not sure. Oh, Candy asked. Candy has a bong and then decides to ask what moose sticks smell like. I don't think they have scented in the options hole. Hang on, wait.
Okay. So first of all, yeah, there's no scented options yet for the candles, but if there do become some, then we will definitely offer those as well as the unscented, because having that option is important for people that can't do scented. Secondarily, moose do smell really, really bad, both live.
Their dicks or
just moose in general.
During
the, I'm trying to think of a nice word to say this. During the process of breaking them down for consumption in the past that I have taken part in for subsistence. I
thought you were going to say you're taking part in something else, and I was waiting to say, man, I don't think this is YouTube friendly, but proceed it recording.
No, growing up in the sticks of Alaska, subsisting on roadkill. Moose is part of that, and they smell terrible. But but I don't think I
Ha-
ever intentionally smelled the dick of one. I'm just putting it out there.
Good. So you're not a degenerate, but were you eating very freshly roadkill, or
Yes.
because maybe so it was? So have you sniffed a live moose?
Yes.
Not a stick,
Yes.
just in general.
Been pretty close to them before, yes.
Really? Is that scary? How tall are you, and how tall is a moose compared to you?
Um, let's see, I'm 5'6", and a moose is taller than me and terrifying. So when you're scared, they're
Do they
giant.
wait? Do they have a noise? Like, do they make do they, like, how horses neigh and sheep bah? Do moose? What do they do?
Um, they
Should we already go on a side
they
quest of
kind of
they grunt?
yeah,
Tony
they
says they
thank you.
grunt.
Tony's right. Yeah, grunt. It's like a grunt sound. It's like a I can't make the sound. It's like a grunty, grumbly like noise that they make, and then they make calls also. But when they're just walking around, they just kind of they also do this chuffing kind of noise when they're really pissed off.
Moose are dicks.
Moose are dicks. Anyways,
Can it
okay,
tell?
I'm
You
done.
know what? Do you know what we've done here right now? You know what we've done here right now? We've done. Oh my god, my scrolling abilities. This.
It's learning time with Cam Shorty. Finding out something new every day.
I love it. Hello, Arca. Moose are the leading cause of road deaths in Scandinavia. We just got to double learn all the learning, all the learning. Well, thank you everyone for being here. So, perhaps this is a very good segue because I presume that given their dick status, moose don't appreciate boundaries. I feel like probably moose say that road right there, that's where I'm going to walk. I get the feeling they're going to huff and puff and grunt past anything but the most clearly delineated and firmly asserted boundaries. So thanks, chat, for that. I appreciate the segue. So we have got tonight. I'm going to do a little bit of a chat first. We've got a bunch of 3 or 4. We'll see what we get through. Videos from short videos from Dr. Ramani. I think the longest one is maybe 23 minutes. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. But I guess why I don't know, many people, men and women, that I come across, if ever the discussion or the conversation of boundaries comes up, pretty much everybody I know says I really struggle with boundaries. I really struggle with setting boundaries. And I guess particularly because a lot of my friends and the people with whom I interact, a lot of y'all are neurodivergent. So I wonder whether people pleasing, which I guess is really where boundaries setting difficulties come about, when one has spent a lifetime of being maybe misunderstood, having had mysterious dissolution of friendships or relationships where you're like, what even happened there? Where we aim to please because neurodivergents often feel like we can't please people, and it's a bit of a mystery as to where we might have gone wrong with a particular relationship dynamic or a conversation, like and maybe for someone like me, as I've gotten older and had a lot of time to reflect on those kind of friendships and relationships of the past that are no longer, I've done a lot of like introspection, a lot of thinking about why and what happened and why. Hi, Mike, by the way. Exactly. We all just want to be liked and loved. So it can be, it is, even still for me now with, so park that for a second. So I'll finish my thought. So with all of, by the time I had nobody in my life, nobody, and I was doing all this shadow work, thinking about all of the things, all of the demons, my part in, or wondering what my role had been in those friendships and relationships falling by the wayside. Um, and but at that point in time when I had nobody, when I came out of having nobody, I kind of have had, on one hand, almost nothing to lose by setting boundaries, because it dawned on me that for a lifetime, all that people pleasing and kind of bending over backwards and finding it really hard, if not impossible, to say no to people because of that need to be liked or loved, generally that those practices didn't serve me well, even when I did do everything for everybody, and even when I didn't maintain healthy boundaries for myself. And we'll go into what that kind of can look like, and we'll talk about it as a chat. I realized that I was dissatisfied with myself and had nobody around me. So what about if I learned and learned how to and practiced setting boundaries that left me feeling less dissatisfied and more like I'd done what was right for me, not to be selfish or egotistical or disregarding other people's feelings, but not being a doormat. And because realistically I had been in a place where I had nobody, so what's the difference? May as well do it kindly, do it firmly but kindly, with assertively, right? And see where that leads. And you know what they say, if you do set a boundary, and it can be tiny, and we'll go into, I've talked about it before, but we'll do it again tonight, or enormous, and everything in between, that's what she said, it can be, and is still for me, terrifying, right? Because I don't really want um, to lose people. But if you do set a boundary with another person and they disrespect or disregard the boundary, or arc up about it, like get crack the shits, as we say in Australia, about the boundary, then the problem isn't probably the boundary, so long as you're being fair and reasonable about that boundary. The problem is that that person liked you better when they could walk all over you. And do you want that person in your life? Like, I don't. So I mean, what's that song? Unfuckwithable, the Fray. That I wrote that about the sheer terror I felt for the fact that I knew I had to set and hold my ground on a boundary with a particular person. And that was terrifying for me. And that's what that song's about. We might even play it in a bit. But so setting boundaries for oneself might be something like having a sleep schedule, sleep hygiene, like not letting yourself be caught in a scroll on your phone, because you know blue light is very bad for one's circadian rhythm. So if you're on your phone scrolling, that's just the blue light in and of itself will affect the quality of your sleep and your ability and desire. The body clock won't want to play. It'll be like, I've got blue light coming into my brain. It's very detrimental. So sleep hygiene, having a routine for your sleep, those things are very simple. Or exercise, eating well, limiting your alcohol intake. They're personal boundaries that many of us struggle with, and I'm not perfect with those things, don't get me wrong. Like last night, time blindness and boundaries, lol, Together they do not make a match. But Ms. What the Fuck can attest to the fact that I obviously was scrolling on YouTube Shorts last night and was being inundated. My algorithm was like, oh, you like K-pop Demon Hunters Golden? Yes, here, have all of the shorts. And then I sent them all to Ms. What the Fuck. And then time blindness, I looked at the clock and realized it was like almost 8:30, which is very late for me. I prefer not to. I prefer to be in bed by 7:38 at the latest. I'd gotten caught it. So I had, but most of the time I try to keep those sleep schedules fairly strict because I feel better when I have regular sleep patterns, right? Alcohol, again, my alcohol consumption goes through patterns like waves where I'll drink a little more and be drinking sort of half a bottle to 2/3 of a bottle of wine a night and then I'll be like, whoa, not good. Waking up with a mild headache every day isn't great. It's not good for the waistline it's not good for you, full stop, period. So then I bring those personal boundaries back in, right? So there's some examples of where practicing on setting for yourself boundaries that you should, and I don't love the word should, but some things just make sense, right? For one's well-being and being able to regulate your emotions, and having respect for yourself. So having a decent sleep pattern, having some exercise in your life, eating as healthy as you can manage given perhaps one's food insensitivities or sensitivities, preferences, limitations for budget, cooking, all those things. Trying to live a relatively healthy lifestyle across the board is a personal boundary. Excesses of anything, whether it's what's the deficiencies? So like not enough sleep, too much alcohol, being a people pleaser. So setting a boundary for yourself can also be making sure that you respect yourself enough to set boundaries for other people, right? So I know I feel better about myself when I live by my own personal set of boundaries with a bit more close adherence. I do. I feel like I'm being kind to myself. And I often finish streams lately with be kind to everybody, be kind to yourself. And that's what I'm kind of meaning. Like respect yourself enough to realize that self-sabotaging and being self-destructive, even in small ways, isn't fun. And it adds to that feeling of shame and guilt that a lot of people, but particularly neurodivergent people, tend to have anyway. Excuse me. And when I know how I feel when I'm a bit of a doormat, I'm like, oh, this feels shit. So a boundary for yourself, as I said, can be being willing and able to set boundaries for others. So I've talked about this particular analogy before, but not all of you will have heard it. But okay, let me have it. Walk and talk chat. So something I absolutely loathe, and it's just a personal thing. It's of no real consequence, right? But I hate the thumbs up react in messaging. On if ever I'm on Facebook, I'll never just hit the like. I'll make sure it's a heart or any of the other reacts. In a text or DM situation, I'll never ever use the thumbs up. To me, and it's probably not necessarily true, but to me the thumbs up react is rather passive aggressive. It's almost like I don't know, it's just like, yeah, right. So I can't stand the thumbs up. Yes, oh, yes. And um that's right, Tony. So for example, if I'm like and please never ever let this ever be a thing ever again, ever. But in the past, when I've begun or had initiated with me a texting relationship, you know, I've got a track record for that. Fuck, no more. But hence the Disney dystopia. But if and when the thumbs up starts to land as a react to a message I've sent, I'll very quickly say to that person, hey, this might sound weird, but I really loathe the thumbs up. Could we do other things other than the thumbs up? I know it might seem weird. Excuse me, frog in my throat. Oh, God. And it's something peculiar, peculiar to me, but apparently not, because a lot of people in chat are agreeing. And if the person goes, yeah, sure, no worries. Sorry, like I didn't even think about it like that. Like it's kind of lazy, like Mike said. Thumbs up is lazy, and if they then respect that and don't like I mean some because sometimes I'll accidentally hit the thumbs up. I'm like remove undo, like it's not intentional. Thanks, Sarah Boone. But if that person is cool about it and they're like, yeah, sure, that's cool. Like if that makes you happy and makes you feel more comfortable with our interactions, then absolutely can do. Conversely, if that person says, like, makes a big deal out of it and sort of says, I don't know, like kind of just pushes back on it when it really is of no consequence. But so for the other person, theoretically, if they either push back on it or make a big deal about it, or are kind of offended that something that makes me feel uncomfortable and an easy change will make me feel more comfortable and happy, then that's a very tiny boundary. It's a very easy boundary test, both for yourself to say, can I have this conversation with this person? It also is a nice little like tester for a new, like, are they going to respect my boundaries? Because this one doesn't really matter in the big picture. What does a thumbs up matter, really? Exactly. If they keep using it, it's rude, but it's not even just rude. It's a sign of things to come. So the next one might be in that same, I'm just going to, for me, most of my boundary setting has been by way of text communication, because I don't do anything in real life except go to work. And, there's still boundaries at work, obviously, but this is the easiest anecdote way I can talk about this. So just say so let's say that for the most part, the person is all good with it and there's no more thumbs up. Sweet. Green flag. But then you've tried that little easy boundary setting with another person. It was a bit scary, but it went okay. So say the next time, I don't know. Well, I'm trying to think. It's been a long time now. Thank God. What if someone calls you? I don't know. Let's say someone a couple of times says you're crazy. Why you being like kind of like, hey, it's just a joke, like gaslighty shit, right? They might be calling you crazy, a lunatic, cuckoo, all under the guise of being hilarious. Hey, I'm just joking. Like, I'm just joking. So then that could be a more important boundary. So you can say, hey, I don't like that. I know you say you're joking, but it's kind of mean. And the vibe I'm getting is that there's something underneath that. I would prefer if you didn't call me crazy, even though you're just joking, because it makes me feel a little bit shitty. Again, if the person says, wow, fuck, sorry, I didn't even think about it like that. You're like, whew, good. And then they stop doing it. And you go, yep, another green flag. If they, God, you're so sensitive. I was just joking. That's not a green flag, right? So, hi, Laura. Good to see you. Let me think of yes, Simi, that's a good one. Many truths are told in jest. They say it, and you react. And if you react badly, suddenly it's a joke. Exactly. And you know what that person is doing? That's them pushing your boundaries to see how much you'll take. Right? So this is relevant for narcissists and toxic people, assholes, people in general, but mostly a good, decent person who isn't a fuckhead is going to be like, fuck, I didn't want you to feel like that. I'm so sorry. I didn't even think about it like that. And they won't do it again. But if someone is coming into your life, and remember we're in Psychology Corner, whether that's a boss, and I'll go into a few examples of workplace ones. But if someone's coming into your life and they're pushing little boundaries like that. So if they kept doing the thumbs up, or if they keep saying those things, and if then beyond the boundary you've set, then they're like, you can realize they're not respecting your boundaries. So they're not going to respect you on bigger things either, are they? If you don't say anything, hey, if I didn't say, you know what, that thumbs up really fucking pisses me off. It grinds my gears so hard. By the time, if ever I do say something, I'll be saying it like that. If I don't say, hey, when you call me crazy, that makes me feel shitty. It makes me feel small. It makes me feel like you're mocking me. The person goes, cool, she's fine with being called crazy. Next time I'll call her a bitch, or whatever the thing is, right? So the boundaries work both ways. That boundary pushing that comes from a shithole person, a shitty person, a dark personality, a narcissist, they're testing you to see what you'll take. So if you are cool with putting those little beginning boundaries in place, they will go, oh, she ain't taking no shit, or he. And hi, that's me these days. I don't. I refuse. So let's talk about that in the workplace, maybe. Say you've got a boss or a colleague who likes to email or call or even text outside of work hours. And if you don't say, hey, if you reply and respond, answer, they're going to go, okay, this is cool. Boundaries. She don't have any. I can do whatever I want here. And then that the next time it might be putting an undue request on you that's sort of outside the parameters of your employment. So even that first little one, if you've got a boss or a colleague or a family member who likes to call you and or contact you at times that aren't convenient, maybe it's dinner time and you're trying to get the food on the table for the family, maybe it's late, maybe it's too early for you. If you respond again, no, it's fine. It's cool, no biggie. Then they're going to keep doing that, aren't they? But if you either don't reply until the time that's suitable for you within your boundaries, your personal routine, and say, hey, I saw that you called last night. That's too late for me. The person isn't going to do it again, really, are they? And if they do, they don't respect your boundaries. See? And then you feel better because your gears aren't getting grinded. You're not getting cranky with people disrespecting your boundaries, and you're not getting cranky with yourself because you were too kind of scared or doormatty or people pleasy to assert those boundaries. But the more practice we have in setting some sensible, fair, reasonable guidelines and boundaries for ourselves, then we're more likely to respect ourselves enough to set those boundaries for others, and you're more likely to respect other people's boundaries. I love boundaries both ways. Like I love when someone says to me, I'm trying to think of something. Like no, Lisa, I like Ms. What the fuck. I'll use Ms. What the fuck as an example. Like because we were talking after the stream to do some more doing recipes, getting them more uniform. Excuse me, I'm going to burp. Delightful. So much talking. And we had that funny clip, the voluminous clip from court that was going to be a short. And Ms. What the fuck said to me at the end of when we were signing off from our doing in StreamYard doing stuff. And she's like, it's getting late now, so I probably won't get time to do that short tonight. I'm like, no, God, no, God, God, no. Like Ms. What the Fuck could have easily gone, Lisa really wants that short done and felt like I have to get it done. And she might have like stayed up or felt shitty. I'm like, no. It's no biggie. Rest is the most important thing. So Ms. What the Fuck set a boundary with me, which is like basically it's getting late. That's going to take me a little bit of extra time. And I'm probably going to leave it. I'm like, yes, please leave it. So the more comfortable we are with setting boundaries for ourselves, then we get more comfortable with respecting boundaries that other people put in place, because you're like, hey, I see this. This is a boundary. I love boundaries. You're asking me to respect a boundary? Yes. Let's both respect the boundaries. I love this. Win, 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 win. Yes, he says. Micah Day, if you called me or texted me at of any kind, not that you would, at 10 p.m., I would have been long asleep. I guess it depends. And even understanding what people's routines are. Like I know Ms. What the Fuck doesn't sleep that much. Which is concerning to me, but and we know each other's sort of schedule. But when we were first sort of doing a lot of communicating, and like my phone's always on silent, no vibrate when I'm sleeping, so that's not going to disrespect my boundaries, particularly with the time difference. For anybody to contact me, it's not going to disturb me. And if I've on the off chance that I've forgotten to switch it off from volume to silent, well, that's on me, dickhead. A spinster. I'm so glad you love this topic. So, Laura, good point. The ability to be able to respectfully say no. So, if I was someone who didn't fully appreciate boundaries being respected, my boundaries being respected by others, then when, let's use that example again, if Ms. What the Fuck had said to me, Lisa, I'll probably leave that short till tomorrow, and I might have gone, what? You know, like it's like a big convergence of what starts with you, then you're able to set with others the boundaries, and then you're able to recognize and respect when other people are setting boundaries with you. And it's just so much better. Nobody feels like a doormat. Nobody feels like they're being taken advantage of. Nobody feels like they're being expected to like be someone's like lapdog, what's the word? Yeah, like lapdog, like just jump when I say jump. No, I'll jump when I say jump. And if I don't want to jump, I'm not jumping, with all due respect, right? Now, I'm going to bring Miss What Hi, Ms. What the Fuck. Wait, what am I doing here? Hi, Ms. What the Fuck. We've got a couple of graphics that I think, because sometimes it's the languaging that people might find tricky. So, Ms. What the Fuck, do you have maybe I don't know which, either of those two graphics, the people pleaser one? Because I think it's
Yes.
remember that it can be, like I said in the beginning of my monologue, it can be really, it is terrifying, even for me now. Like I don't want to say, hey, can you remember all the big shit back at the start of the year? And there were some people on social media some of my beautiful friends whose communication style different to mine, whose sort of attitude, and I actually, before we go to those graphics, Miss What the Fuck, I've got one more thing to say because it's relevant here. My attitude of let them, stick a pin in let them, because it that could feel contradictory when I'm talking about boundaries and let them, right? But they're different. Holding and maintaining my boundaries. Shanwan, girl, good to see you. Come on in, settle in. We've missed you. So given those different communication styles, different attitudes towards dealing with narcissistic supply and smear campaign tactics of the folks that were shitting all over me, it was exhausting and relentless for me to, and kind of very hard work for me to be able to rein in a couple of my none of us here now, couple of my friends, my allies at that time, who just wanted to go in at the flying monkeys with ad hominem attacks, um, uh, making things worse by going in these cyclic, pointless one-upmanship, trying to get the last word on online, right? And so me setting those boundaries and saying to those friends of mine, please, I'm asking you, please don't, can you please not, could we please, like, you're not going to get the last word. It's actually really deeply affecting me that you all, these handful of people with their different, like, doggedly going at people and swearing and cussing, which is just not my style at all. So trying to maintain those boundaries was tough. And when those boundaries by a couple of those people were being completely ignored, in fact, it felt like it was being thrown back in my face, that's when I wrote that unfuckwithable the fray. So so boundaries versus let them, and then we'll get these graphics up. So my let them ethos, which came which is, it's a whole book, but it was actually Amy Boston who brought this theory to my notice, and it was at that time. So let them is about, like, it's that what other people think of me is not my business, right? No matter, and when we're talking about with regards to toxic people, assholes, narcissists, smear campaign, people that are just fucked, right? They're going to get their supply from you responding. We don't always have to. In fact, I try to almost never explain myself beyond, like, there's sometimes where an explanation or a bringing of receipts and a shutting down of a particularly egregious lie or false statement is necessary, but to not get embroiled in the endless to and fro with social media trolls, ask holes, people who continuously ask you questions over and over again, even though you're answering, and they're there for the supply. Those people are there to get a rise out of you. That makes them feel good and powerful. So that's let them. It's really hard. And actually, that's a boundary that one sets for oneself. If I can, and I had to turn my notifications off from Twitter for a long time while I got okay with just letting them. They're going to say whatever. And they did, and they still do, right? Say whatever. I don't care. It doesn't touch me. That's my boundary. My boundary is I don't look at it. I don't engage in it. I don't obsess about it. I don't worry about, except for the very rare occasion when it's something that I absolutely refuse to ignore, and I will shut that shit down. But I'm not going to get embroiled in endless to and fro's. No, thank you. It's pointless. My energy is too precious. I'm not doing it. So being able to let other people, if it's happening, say or think things about you that don't sit well with you, hurt your feelings, make you feel shitty, being able to just go, that's over there. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not going to change that person's mind. They're clearly just an asshole. They're going to believe what they're going to believe. That family member, whoever, it doesn't have to be a smear campaign, but that's my situation. That's actually setting a boundary for yourself, and it's a really fucking hard one to maintain. So let them isn't about being a doormat. Let them is about setting a boundary for yourself, and possibly one of the most important boundaries there are, I think. And everybody's, I'm sure to varying degrees, we've all had people like saying shit about us behind our back at school, in the workplace, family members. That's just some people. Let them. And that boundary is letting them. So I hope that makes sense. Ms. What the Fuck has got, I found this is what actually started this whole little mini series off. Ms. What the Fuck, could you please bring that one up on screen? And thank you everyone for being here. I love you all very much. So sometimes the verbiage can be a little tricky, right? Thank you. The thing with setting a boundary is it's really important to make it non-attacking, non-accusatory. It's about you can say, this is how something makes me feel. Explain a little bit. And and so hence why I'd like for that not to happen again, right? But it's really important to not sort of be, I don't know, victimy, having a martyr sort of stance to it. It's just really simple, clear language. Don't be mean. Don't be rude. Don't be snarky and spiteful. Just the facts. How something makes you feel with a fair and it has to be reasonable. So let me just okay. So if you feel bad saying no, always put yourself last. Here's how to protect your peace without feeling like a terrible person. So I'm going to go back before I start reading them. If you're not comfortable with saying no to yourself and like giving yourself those boundaries that I talked about at the start of this, if that's hard for you, being kind to yourself and respectful to yourself, this is going to feel really hard. So I honestly think it's important to practice setting boundaries and trying those little tiny things with other people before you go big. But when you want to say no but feel obligated, try, I really appreciate you thinking of me, but I have to pass this time. I've told the story before of how I used to be the person who always was appreciative of being invited places. I don't get invited anywhere now, but that's fine. I don't have a life. Or be appreciative of being invited and feeling obligated to say yes. I'm shiny. Let me just dab my shine. And so I would just always say yes. And then I would dread it. I'd be like, I don't want to go. I'm too tired. I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And I'd either go and hate the social event, even though nothing to do with the people, my desire to conserve my social battery, or I'd bail or ghost. I would last minute say, sorry, can't come. And or I'd just not go at all. And then I felt like a piece of shit, because I hadn't had this sort of assertiveness to say right from the jump, hey, thank you. I do appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm not going to do it. And I started practicing that about 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago. And saying, hey, I thank you so much for inviting me. I love it. I know that I'm probably not going to end up coming. Nothing to do with you, all me. So thank you. I'm going to tell you no now, but thank you so much for asking me. It's so liberating. So that's it, like social things. The second one in that first dot point is, I can't commit to that right now, but thank you for understanding. I wouldn't even put but, thank you for understanding. I'd say, I can't commit to that right now. Thank you for understanding. You don't even need to explain. You don't need to say, and this is where I still sometimes fall short. I'll feel like I need to qualify my no with a reason. You don't owe anybody a reason. And no is a complete sentence. But social niceties suggest people expect a reason, but don't lie. Like, lying's no good. So if you say, I can't commit to that right now, like I'm really overwhelmed with my pile of things to do in life, life, thanks. Or you could say, you don't even, you can just go, I just would like, no thanks. I no thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. Period, full stop. So the next point, when you don't want to over explain. The first one says, that's not going to work for me. By the way, I can't see chat at the moment. I've got my screen embiggened so that I can see the screen. So sorry if chat's asking me things. Maybe Ms. What the fuck, if you could star anything that I might need to talk about. So when you don't want to over-explain, just that's not going to work for me, or I'm not available for that. Sorry, I can't. Sorry, I can't. Not even sorry. When you are scared, they'll think you don't care. Saying no here, this is quotes, saying no here helps me make sure I can fully show up for you another time, right? So let's go back to Ms. What the Fuck's example. If Ms. What the Fuck had said to me nothing about the short that has no urgency whatsoever. In fact, nothing's a rush. It's like this is our little side hustle. Nothing's a rush. But Miss What the Fuck is very disciplined and very what's the word? Conscientious. She's what an asset. I love you, girl. Thank you. I'm more fly by the seat in my pants kind of girl. But if Miss What the Fuck hadn't said anything and she'd because she thought she might think I was if she'd said that she couldn't do it, I don't know that I'd judge her. I know she wouldn't think that because we know each other, but then she wouldn't have been able to fully show up tonight for me, for us, because she might have stayed up for hours trying to, because she's so conscientious, getting this short that really didn't have any urgency, right? So you gotta choose where you use your spoons and if you're constantly pouring from a cup for others. So someone who cares about you will understand completely. So if you're scared they're going to think that you don't care, saying no here helps me make sure I can fully show up for you another time. Yeah, like you need me to help you move on the weekend? Oh, I don't. That's a full rhetorical situation. If we do that, I can't do X, Y, and Z this week if you need me to, or you know what I mean? So you can't say yes to everything. In fact, you shouldn't really say yes to most things, in my opinion. The second one there is, I can't do this, but I still care about you and our friendship. I guess, I guess, I'm trying to think. I feel like that's a little florid, but anyway, you get the picture. Like I love you. I'm saying no. Me saying no doesn't mean that I don't love you and that I don't care. It just means that either it's not right for me in my life at the moment, or like Ms. What the Fuck says to you sometimes, girl, I don't think that's a good idea. Although she generally follows it up with a, but I'm here to fully support you no matter what. No, stop it, the girl. That's not a good idea. So the next one says, when you're asked for a favor you can't give. Here's my tip. If someone says, can you do me a favor? I say, what's the favor? And they look at me like, record scratch. I'm like, yeah, sure. You're not going to say, don't ever, ever, ever say, yeah, of course, what? No. And that's just habit and being understanding that I'm not getting roped into something, because then I'm going to, like, that's a hook, right? So anytime anyone says, can you do me a favor? I'm like, what's the favor? Can you help me with something? Sure. Not sure, what do you need me to help you with? What do you need me to help you with? Maybe. I'm like, sorry, I can't do that. It's tough though. And so they favor. So I can't help with that, but I hope you find the support you need. So I think that's wait, let me see. A little bit of a side from a favor, but trauma dumping. Trauma dumping is where unsolicited you or someone else to you comes in with a big long of holy fuck, bruh. It's not. It's usually as it sounds. It's a big long getting what they're feeling or you're feeling off your chest to another person who, unless you know them very, very, very well, they probably won't have the bandwidth to be able to unpack all of that trauma whatever, might not be trauma big T. It could be just blah. Or that person might be actually going through a lot of their own stuff, and that could be the tipping point for them. So if somebody, and I've had this again with a guy that just not even a guy, like just someone I was talking to, no romantic anything. It was just a friend, a pen pal, and they progressively got more and more trauma dumpy with these like whoo of things. And it was when I was being I'd been told I had 2 months to vacate my place. So I was looking down the barrel of the gun of being homeless again. And while I'm generally very nurturing and understanding, and had been giving this person some advice, some comfort, some support, some compassion before I had that news about potentially about being evicted. As soon as that news came down, I'm like, you know what? That's too much for me now, right now. I said to this guy, I'm like, I actually, that's too much for me right now. I can't actually even process what you're saying. That stuff's more like, that's stuff that needs a therapist. Can't do it right now. Thanks for being here, Laura. Yo, Laura's in Tasmania. It's daytime here. She's got a 1 o'clock, but yes, love you, Laura. So a favor / trauma dump, same. You can, it's well within our right to say, hey, look, that's a lot to process. That's a little bit much for me right now. Same as a favor. To say, I'm sorry, I don't have the bandwidth to be able to give you the ear, the shoulder that you might need right now. And that's okay to say that. That's a boundary that's really important, that's helps preserve your own spoons, right? Your own bandwidth, your own sense of overwhelm. Equally, if you trauma dump inadvertently, or God forbid, with intentionality on someone else, and they say to you, hey, I can't right now. I'm so sorry. I love you, but I do care, but I haven't got the spoons. That's an amazing boundary. Hope 8 Fear, good to see you. Ever encounter a close talker, asks Mike. Yeah, get out of my personal space. Yikes. Bring back COVID social distancing. Okay, now, so when asked for a favor you can't give, the second line there says, that's not something I can take on right now, which is interchangeable, right? With a trauma dump situation, same sort of verbiage, and it makes you feel like you're gonna seem like a shitty person. But if the other person, if the trauma dumper can't see that that's a little much, because if it's a little much for the person and they feel like they need to dump it on someone else, hello, that's going to be a little bit much for someone else, because we've all got our own priorities. So that's definitely interchangeable to say, look, that's honestly not something I can take on right now, whether it's a favor or someone else's situational heaviness. But at the times you might have all the bandwidth in the world and go, talk to me. Let's get this off the chest. Yep. So there's one more here. When you feel pressured in the moment, let me think about it and get back to you. I think you can avert that a little bit with a, sure, what's the favor? Not sure what's the favor. Just why? What favor do you want? And then they go like, they kind of think, oh, wow, yeah, actually, that's a little bit manipulative to say, hey, can I ask you a favor? Just ask me. Hey, can you help me move? Still stressful, but no, if I can't help you move, I can't help you move. Sorry. And the last one there is, I'll need some time to consider that before I can give an answer. Yeah, that's fair. Particularly also with text communication, You don't have to reply straight away. If it's something that needs some consideration, respond in your own time when you've had a chance to process the conversation rather than reacting and feeling obligated. So, Ms. What the fuck? Thank you. I like that. We might save the other one for midway through some videos. Simi says depends on who and what's the favor. Yeah, but that can, yes, but if someone who, if a family member asked you, I don't have family so I don't know, but if a family member or a loved one asked you to do something that you wouldn't say yes to anybody else, and you really don't want to but you feel obligated because it's a family member, is that cool? Like, I mean, and is it going to be reciprocated if you'll do things for that loved one that you don't want to really do, but sure, I'll do it because I love you, and they'll do it for you, similar kind of things for you, cool. But if it's only very tipped one way or the other, that's just being taking advantage of, right? Colors. Hi, sorry, I haven't been in chat. Good to see you, girl. Nope, I'd say no. Good. Excellent. So they're good boundaries. So the first video we've got is it's Dr. Ramani. Yes. So we'll have the dulcet tones. Thank you for, wow, an hour of me just talking. Just play the video. No. Saying no is liberating, but it can take some practice. So Dr. Ramani is back. I can't remember the title of this one, but I think it's just Ms. What the fuck?
It is What Are Boundaries? A glossary of narcissistic relationships.
Huh. Excuse me, I just burped. Yes, let's do it. Full disclosure, I haven't watched any of these, but I just went on the titles. So I did, but like we can, as always, we can remove the word narcissist and put in toxic person, asshole, pushy person, like this. Yeah. Tony says, I've actually had to block my grandfather's phone number this year. Why? Because of too many demands placed on you? That's a really good boundary, Tony, because I guess you probably tried to assert verbal boundaries with your grandfather that he didn't respect. And there comes a time, right? We can trust Dr. Ramani. It's been a hot minute with Dr. Ramani, so yay. This one's about 27 minutes. See how long I can make it last. Oh God, Tony. Yeah, that's...
Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani, and welcome back to this sort of glossary handbook series that is designed to define the various terms that float around the universe where we talk about narcissistic relationships. My hope through this series is to create clarity on terms that are often thrown around, but that you may not be entirely familiar with, and also maybe introduce you to some new terms. Today, the term we're going to talk about is boundaries. But as always, before I get to that, I always welcome you to please hit the key here to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell to get notifications, and that will keep you abreast of, actually, we're putting out more content than ever, let you know new content when it comes out to get that notification. So let's talk about boundaries. So let's start with a question. What is a boundary? You think about it, it's a fence, it's a border, it's a wall, it's a fortress. But I'm talking about psychological boundaries. And since we're talking about a psychological concept, those things are metaphors. But what do they really mean? What does it mean to have boundaries? It's sort of the major psychological buzzword of our time. But the fact is, a lot of people aren't always clear about what boundaries are. Psychological boundaries are sort of rules. In their simplest forms, these could be rules about appropriate times to call someone or text someone. Or are you allowed to just show up at their house, or do they expect you to call first? And they make that clear. It can be the kinds of topics you talk about. Politics, or some people may view sex as an unacceptable or uncomfortable topic and feel that to talk about your sex life would be violating a boundary. Boundaries around other kinds of language may also exist. For example, sharing information about a salary or a bank balance may be considered violating a boundary. But boundaries can also be physical, and that could be things about whether you hug someone when you greet them, how close you sit to them, whether you can touch them in any way whatsoever, whether you were to sleep in a bed next to them, whether you would ever dream of sharing a bed with them. But these are sorts of easy boundaries to understand when they're physical or words people say. You can see them, you can hear them, and in that way, you can govern them. But boundaries get a lot more complicated when it starts getting into subtle psychological territory. A nonverbal gesture may feel uncomfortable for someone. A topic that to many people may seem normative may actually feel traumatic or offensive for other people to talk about. It may even relate to the volume or pitch of your voice or the tone of your voice. So in a way, boundaries can feel like rules, like having to stop at a stop sign or wait in line at a store or saying please and thank you. Those are easy rules to understand that get communicated by, I don't know, signs hanging on the wall, like, for example, a sign saying wait in line, or laws that tell us that if you don't stop at a stop sign, you're going to get a ticket, or by society telling us we need to say thank you and please as a part of basic manners, and they're really clear. But that doesn't mean that people always follow even those rules. Now, not following those rules can result in some form of penalty, a fine or a social disapproval, but the rules are clear. Our psychological boundaries aren't. We don't have
Really,
signs in our
Mike?
homes or signs taped to our foreheads listing what we consider to be
She's very
appropriate boundaries. So it all becomes an interesting dance. When someone violates those boundaries, whatever they are, we can tell them, and ideally in a healthy relationship, they will acknowledge those boundary violations and shift the behavior. But think about it. How many times when someone has violated or stepped on a boundary of yours, did you really communicate clearly with them at the time they made the boundary violation?
Yes.
So many of us have been socialized or learned over time to keep quiet, to work around it, to not make such a big deal about it. And then it means that our boundaries may get violated over and over and over again. But we don't feel empowered to try to change the situation. We just don't feel like we have permission to do so. And we may not have been given the skills to do so. Now, for some things, like a person giving too many details than you want to hear about a one-night stand, we may be able to shrug it off and say, ugh, whatever. But what about the bigger ticket stuff? For example, when a person speaks poorly or negatively about issues or people or aspirations that we care dearly about, or when a person keeps foisting more work on you little by little by little, either at work or at home, or when a person keeps baiting you and gaslighting you and manipulating you, that starts to get into much more complicated territory of this complicated issue called boundaries. This isn't just about turning your phone off at 9 p.m. or telling people to not call you. So here is where boundaries get really tricky. We cannot control other people. We can only manage ourselves. Many times people do not agree or respect the boundaries we have, yet they may still talk about their uncomfortable topics. They may keep baiting us. They may keep invalidating us. And they may keep saying and doing inappropriate and disrespectful things. What do we do then? The rules of the world at large work because there are often real consequences that follow when those rules get broken. The same thinking, though, could be applied to boundaries. Maybe that people would change their behavior if there were real consequences. But that gets tricky in the world of narcissism. For a start, narcissists and difficult personalities.
Sorry, Ms. What the fuck. One more anecdotal thing. So I was wondering whether I could work this one in, but that's a good little segue. Real life consequences, right? So the second last narcissistic leech, energy vampire, predator that wheedled their way into my life had to do the thumbs up conversation. Absolutely. Pretty sure I had to do the crazy thing. Respected. But for me, the deal breaker, and I do think I've told this story before, but maybe not. The deal breaker, and I said it, was that it was at the peak of my songwriting, right? When I was writing 1, 2, 3 songs a week. And no, not the pirate. And obviously very excited about those songs. They were all and continue to all be based on things that I feel strongly enough that they itch in my brain, and I write a song and then create. Sometimes it would take me hours to get the perfect iteration. Sometimes it'll come up the first go, but not always. So obviously this person who was theoretically romantically interested in me in a legitimate way, not as a predator, not as a narcissistic piece of shit looking for an empath supply, I would share the song excitedly, and they wouldn't even respond to the fact that I'd shared it with them, let alone say anything at all about that song. And I was like, did you listen to the song I sent you? And like, yeah, I did. I was like, and they're like, oh, the something about the lyrics and something. Hi, Cheryl, by the way. I can't remember the stupid thing. But I was like, you know what? I'm like, honestly, if I've got to remind you, like for me, words of affirmation are one of my big love languages. Acts of service and words of affirmation are my two big ones, because those are the things I didn't receive as a child, having things done for me and having praise showered on me ever. So they're my things, and I'm like, this is a deal breaker for me, man. I'm not trained. I can train you out of thumbs up, and I can train you out of using kind of gaslighting. Just joking. Excuse me, languaging, but I'm not completely going to try to drag out of you something that is of core importance to me, which is words of affirmation. And he's like, but this is ridiculous. What do you mean? I'm like, no, man, I'm not doing that. I don't care. He goes, but you've already explained to me about toxic positivity, because I'd also explained to him about toxic positivity, because that's another boundary that's a deal breaker that we don't do in my world. Most people don't understand side quest within a side quest. Most people still don't understand what toxic positivity is, and we do have a video, a live stream in the Psychology Corner if you want to know more. It's one of my massive bugbears. But he's like, but I understood. I was open to understanding that theory about toxic positivity, and you explained it really well. And I've been working really hard on that. And then I'm like, yeah, but I'm not here to retrain you, man. I'm 50. Oh, I wasn't. I was 48, 49. I'm 50. You're however, I can't even remember how old he was. A couple of years older than me, I think. I'm like, I'm not doing that. That's the toxic positivity is a theory but this is at my very core. And the being unable to even, it didn't even occur to him to acknowledge receipt of my song, let alone understand that this was something that was hugely important for me, that I was sharing with him, something very personal and really important to me, one of my songs. And not only did he not respond to it, even receipt, like, got it, thumbs up, no, didn't even acknowledge that I'd sent it, let alone then have anything. I think he might have said something. Anyway, all that to say, that had a real life consequence. I just wasn't willing to do it, and that was a boundary. I'm not. There's no. This is the deal breaker. So that. And as I said, no more men ever, ever. What did I say on Twitter last night or this morning? I'm like, if cheese is my twin flame, I'm happy. I don't mind being a little thick around the waist. If cheese is my twin flame, then I'm set for life. I love you, cheese. Let's go, Dr. Ramani.
Personalities usually don't follow rules. They often don't even follow the laws. And they generally don't believe rules apply to them. Their entitlement, grandiosity, and
he was
arrogance
horrified, by the way.
all
He
mean
couldn't believe
that
it.
they believe
Outraged.
Rules are for other people, and they flout those rules and get really enraged when they are held to the same standard as everyone else. And in fact, I am a firm believer that the myriad nitpicky rules and laws our society is required to have largely come down to having to keep the narcissist at bay. The rest of us are willing to play by the rules because, in fact, we respect
my
the
God, I'm
people around
Lily.
us. So if they aren't willing to follow rules and laws, do you really think that they're going to respect your personal boundaries, especially given their contempt for relationships? Probably not. So our unwillingness or our inability to set boundaries with narcissists results in all of us enabling them. Just like when they run the stop sign, over time, the tickets and the penalties may stop them from doing it, not because they believe they should have to stop at a stop sign, but because they don't want to pay a fee. They don't even believe they have to pay, but they want to keep driving. But most of us don't set boundaries like that with narcissists. Why not?
It's
Why
very hard.
do so many of us have so much trouble setting boundaries with narcissists?
Because
For
they're
reasons that are both
mean.
understandable and also difficult. For one thing, many of you may not fully understand narcissism and actually believe that people, all people, will hear you when you tell them something, or they'll register the hurt feelings on your face, or they will be able to benefit from social cues and catch themselves. Nope. That is not happening with narcissistic individuals ever. They are not able to self-govern. They are not able to self-regulate. So that is not an option. Secondly, many of us are uncomfortable with conflict. And add to that the fact that many of us have our own struggles with being enough and even feeling like we have the right to set and enforce our own boundaries. We gaslight ourselves and may say, maybe I'm being too sensitive. Maybe it's not that big a deal. Maybe it's me. Maybe I just need to learn to compromise. Third, you may be so accustomed to poor boundaries from your families of origin that the concept of setting boundaries literally feels foreign to you. And if you did try to do it in your family, you would have been unheard, unseen, mocked, and the boundary violations would continue or maybe even get worse. In addition, for those with histories of trauma, particularly early life trauma, physical, sexual, or other abuse during childhood, setting and
Pause, please, Miss.
maintaining
What the fuck?
boundaries
Sorry.
becomes an
When they talk about trauma, childhood trauma, they don't have to be those big T trauma things either. And I don't like that. To me, there's no hierarchy of trauma. But what Dr. Ramani just listed there of abuse, psychological, even abandonment, or as in emotional abandonment, emotional unavailability from parents, a lack of praise. If there might not be any like textbook abuse going on. So this is my childhood. Um, uh, just no affirmations, no real warmth. That's trauma. That's trauma for me. So if you feel like, oh, I don't know if I have childhood trauma, I think most people have childhood trauma of some sort, some much more hugely damaging mentally. But if it changed you and how you feel about yourself, that's trauma. Childhood or in adulthood, same. So thanks, Miss. What the fuck?
even greater struggle because those boundaries were violated in such a profound way, and the concept of boundaries can remain confusing. Trauma work addressing this becomes absolutely essential. And with narcissists, the sad issue becomes that even if you push through all of these barriers and communicate appropriately, communicate directly, and communicate clearly, it probably won't work. Remember that they don't even want to stop at the stop sign or wait in the line at the coffee shop. They already devalue you. Do you really think that your boundaries are going to be heard by them? Probably not. And that is where it gets really toxic. It may have taken superhuman effort, therapy, anything you could have done to even summon up the courage to talk about boundaries. Or you may actually be good and able to talk about boundaries and actually did it and saw that very little changed. And in fact, the narcissist became quite defensive. And then they turned the entire conversation back on you with lots of gaslighting, manipulation, and other abuse. Many therapists do not build an understanding of narcissism into their work with those living in narcissistic relationships. So the guidance to set and enforce boundaries is just really mental health common sense. But telling you to set boundaries with a narcissist is like throwing you into a cage with a tiger. When your attempt to set or enforce boundaries with a narcissist, and these can be simple boundaries, very simple, like things like, could you please not use your phone when we are eating dinner? There also may be very nuanced boundaries. Please don't compare me to my mother, given the trauma of that relationship to me. When all of that fails, you are now thrown into a place characterized by helplessness, hopelessness, and powerlessness. You may feel that maybe you didn't do it right, or maybe it was your fault, you weren't clear enough, or maybe you are being too sensitive. And again, it's more and more of the self-gaslighting. And then the boundary violations persist because you
Yes.
may simply not understand what you're dealing with when you're dealing with a high conflict narcissistic partner. And it's in this
Pause.
way
Sorry,
that
Ms.
over
What the fuck?
time,
Not just a high conflict narcissistic partner, even just someone who's used to getting their way. Most people, because most people aren't comfortable with saying no, most people also aren't comfortable with being told no. Because most people aren't comfortable with setting boundaries with others or themselves, most people aren't comfortable with having boundaries set for them. Same with difficult conversations. This is just all about getting comfortable with the stuff that we're not comfortable with, so that the more we talk, the more we practice it with each other and with ourselves, all of these tough things, these kind of like icky things that make us feel a little bit like out of our comfort zone, the more everybody in the world, oh my God, I've been saying this for a year, the more everybody in the world will be okay with those things. It's my wish for the world, honestly. It won't ever be with everybody, but I do think it's not just hardline narcissists make it harder, particularly when you're not. They make it more difficult to assert boundaries and to stand your ground on them because they're pieces of shit. But not a lot. Most of us don't interact with hardline narcissists every day. It doesn't make setting boundaries any easier because we're not comfortable with them generally. So thanks, Miss What the Fuck.
even when other people tried to set boundaries with the narcissist, it didn't work. The healthy or fortunate people were able to walk away from the narcissist once they recognized that their boundaries were not respected. But the fact is, most people don't do that. And over time,
Pause. Sorry, Miss What the
they
Fuck. Also,
stop
that Tony
trying.
reminded me. The other thing is too. Probably 5 years ago. My prowess with dealing with, managing, or escaping from the dark personality type is getting better and better and better and better with each one of these type of people that I've had to deal with. So I have talked about this before, but like my son's father is absolutely a narcissist, is verging on psychopathy. My son turns 14 in a month. Oof. I didn't know anything about narcissists back then with him. I would not have even known where to start with him. My light bulb moment came with the next one, with George, that very abusive, very dangerous, pure psychopath. And since then, I've been getting better and better and better, and practice makes perfect. Yuck, it's not fun. But if you don't even know their game, like Tony says, the only way to win with them is to not play the game. That's why I'm trying to educate us, the community, and remind myself along the way what the game of the dark personality actually is. It's not fun. Ugh. But if we know their tactics, if we know what they do, how they do it, maybe not why they do it, a little bit of why, the more knowledge we have, the more able we'll be to see those patterns, to see the game, and to step away from that game, or steer away from it before it even gets to a game, or to at least not engage with the game if we're stuck in it on the chessboard, right? Because obviously for some people, if you're in a relationship or your boss, whatever it is, like a long term, like a marriage or a family dynamic, I mean, you can step out of a family dynamic. You can set those boundaries. Tony just spoke before about blocking his grandfather because of the beyond psychotic behavior from that person. And I'm so sorry, Tony, but so that's why we're doing this. And the more we hear things, the more we absorb it, the more the more we know. It starts to be less foreign. We start to recognize patterns, and then we're better informed to better navigate through in life with these people, everyone from just a selfish sort of nasty person you don't really want to deal with because not my jam, all the way through to an absolute nightmare of a psychopath or a narcissist. So, right, back to Dr. Ramani. Thanks, Miss What the Fuck.
Force boundaries with a narcissist, and in that way, slowly more and more people enable the narcissist because they can't be bothered with
Grey
even taking this
rocket.
on with them. So this dynamic is particularly prevalent in family systems in which a parent does not honor boundaries. Because as a child, it is all but impossible to enforce boundaries with a parent. And none of the other adults around them they can't enforce boundaries with them either. And this is a theme that is observed in what we often traditionally term more codependent family systems. These family systems are governed by fear of the narcissist's reaction, fear of the narcissist's anger, and fear that the narcissist will devalue and discard them. In this way, narcissists do a great job of weaponizing boundaries. They pathologize you. They paint you as being crazy for wanting them. And they foster fear through their anger and their reactivity, which results in an even lower likelihood that people will consistently set boundaries. And then it can escalate the overall trauma bonding of the narcissistic relationship systems, whereby people defend and enable so they can avoid having to dismantle. Now, boundaries in the workplace are a major issue when you're dealing with workplace narcissists. Workplace narcissists and managers and supervisors violate boundaries in a whole range of ways. They ask you to work longer hours, and sometimes they'll ask you to do that without compensation. They'll give you responsibilities outside of your job description. They may ask you to do things at work that are not in line with the job. So, for example, picking up their laundry or researching a vacation for them, maybe even sending their mistress flowers. And those requests violate a personal boundary. They may ask inappropriate questions of your personal life, or it can veer into even more oppressive and toxic territory with sexual harassment, inappropriate advances, and even stalking. Obviously, these boundary violations exist on a spectrum. When you have narcissists in the workplace, they will violate boundaries. It's not will they will. They are sort of the sloppy drunks on business trips. And they're the reason we all have to complete these online trainings about very ridiculous fundamental pieces of human interactions. Most of us understand boundaries, they don't. Boundary violations in the workplace are one of the primary ways that workplace narcissists reveal their narcissism and their abuse and their harassment. They will typically gaslight when they're called out on their boundaries. So, I was just having fun with you. In this new era, you can't even make a joke. Come on, everyone does a little extra to get ahead. It's called ambition. In the era of Me Too, ironically, you would think that this would have slowed some of this down. Interestingly, it has resulted in narcissistic individuals being even more contemptuous of boundary setting. Work isn't fun anymore. It's impossible to be able to talk with people anymore. It's as though they are not able to navigate a world with appropriate boundaries, so they reject it and they ridicule it. In the workplace, it is essential that you document everything. This is tedious, but it's necessary. If narcissists and other toxic colleagues and managers are behaving inappropriately, a record of this, ideally in sort of two-party sources like emails, voicemails, etc., are essential for human resource or legal advisors to act on anything. Unfortunately, your first-person report is not going to suffice. And even with the documentation you provide, you will be amazed at how often the narcissist will still prevail in these situations. Another tool is to have firm boundaries from the jump. This isn't easy for all of the reasons I already mentioned, that people feel like they don't want to be the wet towel from the jump, and they want to be able to engage in the workplace banter. Some people may even be confused by the poor boundaries. It can feel like if they're on the receiving end of these poor boundaries, that they may be sort of the favored child in the workplace or getting special opportunities. But then you realize it doesn't feel good. But in these ways, you can slowly acclimate to a setting that has confused boundaries and then very quickly find yourself in more problematic situations. Other boundary setting in the workplace might involve things like avoiding solo meetings with the narcissist when you can, avoiding meetings that involve alcohol or other inappropriate settings for meetings, such as, for example, private hotel rooms.
Meetings with alcohol?
Asking for
Care?
meetings to be recorded. You should ask for meetings to be recorded or detailed minutes taken. And it's important to
Lovely.
keep copies of your work in hard copy for your records, because if there's any doubt about your contributions, you'll need that. Boundary violations are, in fact, one of the primary ways that workplace narcissism does its damage. Workplace narcissists are enabled by the yes men and yes women and sycophants and people who are afraid of killing the golden goose or of angering a terrifying boss. Just like in a family where the narcissistic parent is enabled, the same dynamic happens in the workplace. And that is precisely how the mailroom tyrant can get promoted all the way to being the CEO tyrant. The fear that they generate is equated with power and strength. And the fear
Nightly
of calling them
step.
out on their boundary violations means that people enable them, shut up, or leave the job. So what do? You certainly can't live without boundaries, but you have to become realistic about.
I was going to say the same go in any dynamic. It's that fear of what that unreasonable person, whether they're a narcissist, whether you think they might be a narcissist, whether they've just got a track record of being hyperbolic with their reactions to things. It's like, oh, I don't want to. I don't want to. But if you don't, then it's only going to continue and you're going to feel shitty about yourself because you haven't been respectful of yourself. I think it all comes back to self-respect and honoring yourself. And clearly someone who just wants to trample all over you as their doormat doesn't have any respect at all for you. And that's obvious with narcissists. It's obvious with just toxic people in general. They don't seem to give a fucking shit about just niceties. So thanks, Ms. Motherfucker.
Them if you are in a narcissistic relationship. First and always, you need to practice rule number 1 of narcissistic relationships. You have to have realistic expectations. Unfortunately, narcissistic individuals do not integrate feedback from other people well, least of all when it can be perceived as any kind of criticism, which is just about any kind of feedback that they receive. For long-term narcissistic relationships that you've been in, you then realize that your feedback is not going to help, and they are not likely to change that much. If this is a new relationship, a new territory, then you need to be prepared that they will not honor your boundaries. So it may be a red flag to get out and cut your losses and step away from the relationship. Second, you need to use these expectations to set a different kind of boundary. Stop engaging and sharing important things about yourself. Don't
Hi,
share your
boss.
feelings. Don't share your emotions. Don't share your aspirations. Don't share your negative moods.
Pussy.
Don't share much with a narcissist.
Maybe.
Basically, go gray rock. In so doing, it becomes less about you waiting for them to honor a boundary, but instead it becomes about you setting one for yourself that you can honor and enforce. It isn't easy in the beginning, and over time, you start to realize that this isn't really much of a relationship. Some people may recognize this as the point to leave a relationship, that it's completely empty, while others may recognize that they cannot be their authentic selves in the relationship, and while they may not be willing or able to leave the relationship, they may instead to choose to cultivate other sources of support. The bottom line is that the boundary is something you set for yourself. You don't share, you don't engage, and you don't take their bait, and you sure as heck don't wait around and wait for them to
Buster, you
actually
can't go in
honor
there.
your boundaries. So why do narcissists have such a difficult time with boundaries? Arrogance, entitlement, impulsivity.
They don't apply.
Poor self-reflective capacity, lack of empathy,
Buster,
grandiosity. Short
I'm trying to type that into my thing.
rules, they think they don't apply to them. They want to do what they want to do. And then after they have their impulsive acting out, sometimes they apologize. They are poorly regulated and impulsive. So they will often violate a boundary, do what they want to help them regulate their negative mood state at a given time. Their poor self-reflective capacity means that they're not able to take a moment to think about how their actions or words are impacting other people. And then there's the issue of shame. Shame is actually a very interesting consequence for narcissists. When they violate boundaries, there may sometimes be a public reaction. The family gets mad at them, a workplace supervisor takes action, they have to face a lawsuit, and then they feel their narcissistic version of bad. They feel ashamed. Now, you would think that would mean that they would stop the boundary violating behavior, but unfortunately, that's not how shame works for them. Instead, it drills down into the most self-loathing parts of the narcissist, and it creates a sense of self-anger that they project out into the world, and then they violate even more boundaries from a place of contempt and a place of anger at themselves that they project onto the world. It's a sad
I couldn't
dynamic
find
that
it.
often plays out this way. Now, boundary setting is considered to be one of the most useful strategies with a narcissist, but also one of the most frustrating. They will not honor them, and enforcing the boundaries is a futile pursuit. But the boundaries still remain important. In the extreme, laws do sometimes stop narcissists. They don't want to go to jail. They may violate a boundary, which is also breaking the law, like trespassing or carrying a gun someplace they should not be carrying a gun, or pushing a person physically who doesn't let them cut ahead in a line. And then law enforcement gets called, and maybe they get arrested, probably not, because they talk themselves out of it, and maybe they go to the jail, probably not, but that's a real consequence. Now, interestingly, you would think that fear of jail or prison would shape their behavior in the future. Not as a rule. Prison is not a treatment for narcissism. And once a narcissistic individual comes out of prison, the narcissistic patterns remain. They may even be worse. They also will sit there and view themselves as a victim of an unfair system and will keep breaking the rules and violating boundaries. And I can say with some confidence, it may literally be impossible to have a narcissist maintain appropriate boundaries. When it comes down to it, they are limit testing children who always try to stay up 1 minute later than bedtime. And everyone
Adult
needs
children.
to be clear on their personal non-negotiable boundary. We all have one. For some people in a relationship, it might be, for example, cheating or infidelity.
Loads.
For others, it might be someone stealing money from them.
Yeah, no shit.
For others, it may be physical violence.
Yeah, no shit.
Everyone has their non-negotiable. And if the
All of the
narcissist
above.
crosses the non-negotiable line, then people may actually feel more empowered to do the ultimate boundary drawing and get out. But again, the idea of creating boundaries that the narcissist is going to honor on a regular basis.
They're always
is
the victim,
ridiculous.
Mike.
It's on
Always.
us to manage our boundaries. And the ways we can manage those boundaries is to not engage, not have idle banter with them, to not spar, and to not render ourselves
Yes.
vulnerable. So it is
Yes.
on us. We have to be
Yes,
our
Dr.
own
Ramani.
gatekeepers. We have to protect our own boundaries.
Yes.
And we have to value ourselves enough and our boundaries and our limits enough to respect our boundaries for ourselves and give ourselves
Buster,
permission
wait.
to disengage from toxic and difficult people who will never respect our boundaries. And in so doing, boundary setting can stop feeling like a frustrating and hopeless endeavor.
Yes.
But instead, it can feel like a lesson in empowerment and the fact
Yes.
that the most powerful boundary you have is to simply not engage with someone who
Yes.
is not good for you. I hope
Yes.
this episode really highlighted
Yes.
what boundaries are and how they play
It
out
was,
in a
it
narcissistic
did.
relationship. As always, please hit subscribe to
Totally subscribe, Dr. Ramani. I love you. Hey, I'm just going to remind you, I haven't watched any of these. And I'm so wise. Maybe I am Dr. Ramani. You know my title. If you're not aware, Simi, can you please drop my title in the chat for someone like Mike who might not be aware that I have a long list of pronouns that are highly esteemed. Hey, I'm picking this song. Hi, it's me. And we're going for a song break. This one, oh my God, so good. Wait, fill up your drink, pack a bong, I don't know, go to the bathroom, have a ciggy, whatever it is. What am I doing? Good God, I didn't know. Okay. This one.
Now some music. The supreme leader decrees it.
So here's the thing with narcissists, they always have to win. They'll cast aspersions, they'll gaslight you. To them nothing's a sin. The narc, he wants to own you, your every waking thought. He'll love bomb, then disown you, cycle forevermore. But what if this is all just noise? Hurt people, hurting people, or either one of us so bad? Is either of us evil? The empath and the narcissist. Hurt people, hurting people. The narcissist, he needs to be the center of your world. And if you dare to shut him out, his mask, it's gonna fall. Just walk away, cut off his air, don't give him anything. Not gonna change, it's over, girl. Take this nothing as a win. But what if this is all just noise? Hurt people, hurting people, or either one of us so bad, or either of us evil. The empath and the narcissist. Hurt people, hurting people. Now here's the thing. With empaths, victory matters not one bit. We feel it all, yes, even his, the pain in the abyss. An empath, she can see it all from every awful angle. And those who ravage us the most are the ones we try to heal. They're drawn to us, they need our light. We shine from dusk till dawn. The most we'll do is shut you out while you are keeping score. But what if this is all just noise? Hurt people, hurting people. Is either one of us so bad, or either of us evil? The empath and the narcissist. Hurt people, hurting people. Oh, it's all just noise, forget the rest. All we can do is do our best. The empath and the narcissist, we're just two hurting grown-up kids. But what if this is all just noise? Hurt people, hurting people. Is either one of us so bad, or either of us evil? Hurt people, hurting people. The empath and the narcissist. Hurt people.
Don't mind me backstage rocking with my cock out. No cock out, but just guys, oh my God. Right now, hi, love that one. Oh, so very Kelly Clarkson? Not even any typos, so there's no stupid dumb things. Probably, God damn it. Goodness gracious. Now we've got another video. Dr. Ramani, Ms. What the fuck? What's this one called?
This one is 9 Signs of Poor Boundaries.
Okay. So I love that. Shall we chat? Let's do it.
Oops, I pushed a button.
That's what she said.
Try that again.
Puppy.
Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani, and today I'm going to walk through 9 signs of poor boundaries that you need to know. Don't forget to subscribe below and hit that bell
Wow,
so you'll
this is
always
blow up.
know when we post more videos like this one. Boundaries affect every way we go through life, and it's often something we were never taught to set, right? In fact, in many ways, a lot of how we raise children in our world goes against setting boundaries. We tell kids that you have to go hug someone where it may not be consensual, or the child doesn't want to hug that person, or you have to follow rules that don't necessarily make sense for all kids. So we actually kind of teach children to kind of squelch that sense of boundaries. We're also never taught how to set them. Many people, when they set boundaries, they feel guilty. Like, oh, if I set this boundary, this person's going to feel bad. And then I feel bad. I'm setting the boundary. So we don't even feel like we have the right to. And even if we can get past the idea that we do have the right to set boundaries, we'll often feel bad if we set them. But poor boundaries can really impact our lives in many ways. It can put us at risk for entering into toxic relationships. It can put people at risk for dangerous situations. It can also result in people sort of taking on more than they need to, taking on more caregiving responsibilities, more work responsibilities in a way that can really
Pause,
take a toll
what
on
the
both
fuck?
their physical and their.
Dr. Ramani needs a different mic. That one's too requiring her to stay still, and she doesn't stay still. I know there's times when I do all this too, but I'm not Dr. Ramani. I'm just Miss Shorty. So anyway, carry on. Sorry, Dr. Ramani. Bless you, Poppy.
Mental health. And there was also psychological fallout from poor boundaries. When a person has poor boundaries, they will often blame themselves, even for a very negative or even a problematic or traumatic interaction, saying, well, it's my fault. I had poor boundaries, which can not only result in self-blame and shame, but a whole cascade of negative emotions associated with that. So let's talk about some signs. Let's talk about the 9 signs of poor boundaries, because I think if people have a sense of, I don't even know what poor boundaries look like, we might be able to help people sort of navigate these waters. Number 1 is that a person finds that they can't make a decision. And the reason they can't make a decision is often because they feel torn. They feel torn between sort of overextending themselves or doing what other people want and what they really want to do. And so I guess the fantasy in that case is really that maybe someone else is going to step in and make this decision. But when you can't make a decision, it's also much more difficult to set that line in the sand and say, actually, I can't come to the movies tonight. I have a deadline, or I won't be able to stay for dessert because da da da, or I won't be able to take on that extra piece of writing because I have to get the other report done first. So that's a decision. But if a person thinks, I don't know what's going to happen if I make this decision, or something's kind of bad's going to happen, a person then may hold back on making decisions and then may repetitively have this issue around decision making. The second sort of sign of poor boundaries is somebody who is a people pleaser. Now, people pleasing is a massive risk for all kinds of poor boundaries, and it's how a lot of people paint themselves into a corner. People pleasing is exactly what it sounds like. It's giving in against what a person actually wants and doing what other people want. It's denying one's own self-interest. It's denying one's own wants, desires, you name it. So when a person is people pleasing, they're literally just catering to what other people want. When I've worked clinically with people pleasers, one thing that I have really sort of focused on is that be aware of the dynamic, but also there's sometimes some secondary gain from being a people pleaser, right? Because when you're a people pleaser, you're the nice person and you get to maintain that identity of, oh, that person's cool. They're so nice. They just go along. And it's sort of like this weird kind of strangely manipulative dance. You people please. The people who are being pleased are saying, aren't they great? Aren't they wonderful? So they're reinforcing something that's actually harming the people pleaser. And the people pleaser's buy-in, the people pleaser person's buy-in is that they get to walk through the world as the nice, accommodating person. So some of the work in therapy goes a lot deeper. It's saying, why is it so important for you to be viewed as this person who always goes along, who always makes people's lives easier? And it's about sort of breaking down some of those schemas, the identity around that, understanding the history around that. Because when we people please, we set terrible boundaries. We will stay out later than we want. We will do more than we want. We'll take on all kinds of additional roles and responsibilities that can really put us in a sort of an uncomfortable, again, potentially toxic situation because we just keep trying to please that other person. I think that when a person is a people pleaser and they found an audience of people who are willing to suck up all their people pleasing, that also gets to be, again, sort of a toxic dance that the people who are being pleased are saying, well, this is great. I don't have to question it. Word to everyone out there who is being people pleased, you're on the receiving end of it. It's not our job to hold other people's boundaries, but it is part of our role as human beings to be empathic and have compassion. So if we do sense that someone is really overextending themselves in our service, to really say, okay, you need to please step back. You've been doing so much. It can be a very reciprocal and supportive dance that way. But ultimately, it is on all of us to know that if we are people pleasers, that really is going to negatively affect and erode boundaries. Another sort of an extension, sort of a third sign that people have poor boundaries is sort of an extension of the people pleasing stuff, but it's people who become so overly focused on other people that they actually become exhausted and fatigued in their own life. So basically, they're taking care of everybody else's stuff, needs, schedules, whatever. And they themselves are not taking care of themselves. They're sort of completely depleting themselves. Now, this gets tricky in terms of a boundary issue because we have to look at even things like, for example, caregiving burdens, and especially when people have young children. It's hard to set a boundary and sort of roll up to your kid and say, well, I'm setting a boundary, darling, and I'm not going to change your diaper. Like, it doesn't work that way. And so but what it does mean is that that person who has the responsibility of very young children may need to set those boundaries, those caregiving boundaries in other areas. For example, they don't need to feel the need to put a 5-course dinner on the table, or they don't need to do sort of extra things for other family members who could be doing them themselves or even in the workplace. Before I move on to number 4, I want to let chips explain this.
Oh, we saw that guy. Was it that
People
episode?
who have poor
No. That was a different episode, I think, but same yellow chairs. Yes, Mike, they avoid focusing on themselves on purpose. Yes, busy work. Being always busy, giving to everyone else is a kind of a deflection tool, isn't it?
boundaries often do exhaust themselves because they're doing for so many other people. And once we even pop it out of the caregiving realm, just to sort of normalize an experience that many people have, is that sense of a person thinking, well, I have to do because I'm climbing up the ladder. I'm trying to win someone over. I'm trying to, win this boss over or get this opportunity. I want to show hustle. And then that person in their hustle may be doing and doing and doing and doing. And the boss or the colleague, whoever, might be taking and taking and taking. And the boundaries are getting worse and worse, mostly because the person thinks it's a means to an end, but then ends up getting really exhausted, really depleted, and it can really, really take a toll on their lives. So it's just about being aware of somebody sort of completely exhausting themselves while they're doing everything in the service of others. That's another big sign of poor boundaries. Another sign that somebody has poor boundaries is that they have sort of lost their sense of self. When a person has poor boundaries, they often sort of really start not only absorbing roles in other people's lives, but almost sort of start absorbing other people's lives. Like other people's bad days become your bad days. Other people's losses become your losses. And a person will say, I don't even know who I am again. I feel like I exist only for my children, or I exist only for my partner, or I only exist for this job. And they've lost them. Who are you? What do you stand for? People with poor boundaries tend to lose that sense of self because as their boundaries get encroached upon, they really are so living their lives, not only in the service of others, but almost like, again, absorbing their identities so that their own identity kind of gets lost in the shuffle. This is a really sort of a dangerous precedent. And you'll see this again, where I've often seen this repeated is in parents, where they'll say, I became so about my kids and everything, my kids' schedules, my kids' needs, my kids' meals, my kids' rooms, my kids' this, my kids' that. Well, just in case none of you knew this, these kids actually do grow up. And if you do it right, they grow up and they make their own lives. And at that point, many people will say, I don't even know who I am anymore. So there's a risk in that. And that may not even happen in child rearing, though I think it happens in a very sort of intense way there. It can happen in a relationship where a person is all about, I'm going to be for them. And I'm going to support their career. I'm going to take care of them. that a person turns around one day and says, well, I certainly got them to where they needed to, but who am I? Can happen in a job as well, having that losing one's sense of self in a job because the job becomes so all absorbing that a person doesn't maintain their social connections, their hobbies, their interests. They become the job and subsequently lose their sense of self. So it's a real sign that a person may not have very good boundaries because they've literally lost their sense of self to not being able to maintain these boundaries more carefully. Sixth sort of sense, another sixth sense, a sixth indicator, another way we know that people may have poor boundaries is oversharing. Now, this is such a tough one because I'm sure a lot of you are
Never.
thinking, Dr. Romney, how much sharing is oversharing? Sharing is it's not
Anything
about
I
it's not an
say.
either or. Sharing is almost like a process that should be done over time and is predicated on trust. So when a person overshares, they may, for example, share information with somebody where they have not sufficiently established trust and potentially shared something that they should not be sharing. It could be inappropriate to share because it could be sharing the confidences or secrets of another person that could make themselves vulnerable, that they could be sharing information that could put them in a really disadvantageous place in terms of a job situation. One of the reasons that has been suggested that people overshare is that they may feel sort of overwhelmed or dominated in a situation. And to them, the overshare might be a way to sort of establish an attachment need or a connection with the other person. And that idea of if I give, and we'll also see this as a pattern in people actually who have histories of trauma. And we know that boundaries are an issue for people with histories of trauma, is to go in there and lay out too much too quickly.
I think this doesn't take into account the generally often rather neurodivergent propensity to oversharing. But maybe that's a connection thing. So I guess it's probably all linked. What are you guys doing? But yes, I don't know. I'm an oversharer. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. Thanks, Miss What the Fuck.
I am the first one out there who is a big fan of emotional vulnerability and sharing. But the thing I'm a bigger fan of is being discerning and making sure we're good gatekeepers for ourselves. If a relationship is trusting and it's evolving over time and getting better, as time goes on, we might feel that, oh, I'm trusting this person more. I might be able to share this next thing with them. Heck, even in therapy, I don't expect people to come in on day one and boom, drop the cargo hold in the room. I'm fine with it if it happens. It is therapy. There's confidentiality and protections in that space. But I also very much appreciate it if people say, I need to learn you. I need to get to know you a little bit. And that's fine too. But when it comes to our social relationships or other workplace relationships or relationships that don't have those sorts of those protections of sort of built-in boundaries through things like confidentiality and all of that, oversharing is often a sign of poor boundaries because you're going in there so quickly. Not only can it potentially make another person uncomfortable, but it also could be putting the oversharer in a position of tremendous vulnerability and might make it harder for them to stay safe in a given relationship situation. And what we do know about people who overshare, and then that oversharing comes back to bite them, they tend to blame themselves for another person's misuse of the information. At the end of the day, if somebody harms you with the information you overshared, that responsibility is on the person who harmed you. But many, many people will find themselves blaming themselves, and that oversharing is also a real sign of poor boundaries. Another sign of poor boundaries may be that a person is getting resentful and annoyed that they're overextending themselves, but the other people aren't. And that may very well be because those other people have either A, they may have better boundaries, but B, they may also be sort of advantaging the fact that another person doesn't have good boundaries and they're benefiting from that. But it can, again, when a person has poor boundaries, it can really sort of pump up a sense of resentment, a sense of frustration. And instead of stepping back and saying, I'm not maintaining my boundaries. And so, yes, of course, I feel taken advantage of, that you could connect those two. And that should be sort of a call to arms to really start setting those boundaries. But a person who feels that, I keep getting sucked into things, I'm really frustrated. Why am I the only one who's sort of having to do everything? And that relates to another sign of poor boundaries I'm going to talk about, that can really leave a person wondering like, oh, this feels very unfair. But if you are feeling that in your relationships, that you sort of feel really annoyed and you're not able to identify it, but you do feel sort of a sense of resentment and frustration, that could be a sign of poor boundaries. And especially when that's not being reciprocated, and it often isn't. Like I said, for those two reasons I gave, either other people do have better boundaries or they're benefiting so much.
That's like what I was saying before in my intro monologue. I love reciprocal boundaries. I think it's so important. That indicates in both people, in my opinion, a pretty high degree of emotional intelligence, of emotional maturity, of self-awareness, of just being a generally good person. It's so important, and everybody feels good about themselves, about the dynamic. Thanks, Miss.
From your lack of boundaries that they're thinking, well, why should I stick my neck out? And all of this relates to another sign of poor boundaries, which is passive aggressiveness. It relates to that sense of resentment. Passive aggressive people do not communicate directly about needs, wants, disappointments, and frustrations. So they may sort of do things like common passive aggressive technique would be to stonewall and not communicate. A person doing that might actually say, I'm setting a boundary, I'm not responding to them. But that's not going to be appropriate if something's already underway. People are already in the process of making arrangements, or it's a workplace situation. And then a person who has not had good boundaries gets frustrated. And then the passive aggressive play at that point might be, I'm not talking about this and I'm not doing this. But that's not going to work if you've already agreed to
It's
do
a
something.
control
Other sorts of
mechanism. It's so
passive aggressive
manipulative.
kinds of plays might be barbs that are sort of like, well, it must be easy to live your life since you have, since you don't have any responsibilities kind of thing. And that another person's like, well, I do have responsibilities. I'm doing them. And it's not on me that you're taking on so many more. That it doesn't come out as a person in a healthy way saying, this is hard for me because I'm carrying a lot more of this load. Can we figure out a way to divide these tasks in a more equitable way and make it very direct? The passive part of passive aggressive is that a person is not dealing with the problem that's on the table, is not communicating about it directly. And that makes sense because people with poor boundaries communicating directly is a struggle for them. Asking for what they need or want, or setting a line where they say, I can't do more of this, that is direct. It's not passive. The other person on the other side of the passive aggressive communication feels almost sort of ganged up on. They'll think, why is this person coming at me? And as though that the person who didn't set the boundaries is frustrated and may even be frustrated at themselves. So the passive aggressive piece almost feels like a projection to the other person too. So if you find yourself behaving in a passive aggressive manner, it may very well be that you haven't set good boundaries. And what's interesting is that may not even be that you're not setting good boundaries with the person in front of you. It could be, for example, a person who's overextending themselves at work through poor boundaries is then passive aggressive, for example, with family members or friends, because they're so frustrated about what's happening there. They'll say like, oh my gosh, well, thanks for starting drinks without me, passive aggressive. And they may go on to say, am I the only one here who's working? No, you're not. Your friends have jobs too. But when it's those kinds of communications, that person's frustrated about work where they're not setting boundaries. And then they're coming and lashing out, or sort of lashing passively at the people in their social purview, because maybe they don't even feel like they can safely communicate about that in that other situation. Another sign
please move
of
on.
poor boundaries is a person doing things and not.
Okay. Remember that story before, the anecdote I told about me sharing my songs with this person who was supposedly interested in me romantically. Yeah, it's kind of bad because it was right hot on the heels of The Pirate. No thanks. Interesting timing there of that person coming on in and trying to sweep me off my feet like a knight in shining armor. Anyway, so had I not articulated that displeasure with him, that deal breaker, that hard line, that hard boundary of no, I need for someone who wants to be in my life to understand that I need words of affirmation and acknowledgement of things that are important to me, which again is words of affirmation. There are times, less and less now, where rather than assert, or almost never actually, rather than say what's on my mind, I will passive aggressively say, oh, okay. No, don't just say, oh, okay. Say, hey, that really hurts my feelings. XYZ. I can't remember the last time I did it. And usually that's a conditioning thing, right? Where you're like, I don't know if I've got the bandwidth to articulate what behind the oh okay. Maybe the conditioning is that the last time I articulated that with this person, it was not well received. Or maybe I'm just feeling a little bit caught up in my 8-year-old self. Remember that conversation with the bros that everybody loved so much? Talking about, really most people's reactions to things are have a very deep underpinning with that 8-year-old self and that hurt little child. So that for me, that okay is like minimize myself. Don't rock the boat. Don't make anybody's life. Don't stick out. So yeah, that's a passive aggressive thing that was probably the last vestige of for me that reticence to set boundaries. Sorry, Dr. Ramani, that's a bit of a dirty pause. Thanks, Miss What the Fuck.
Setting boundaries because they're afraid of being rejected and they're afraid of abandonment. This is a very common pattern in people who have poor boundaries. They think if I don't do this, then these people aren't going to show up anymore. Then this person is going to leave my life. And it's a very destabilizing fear, because what happens is the person will have poor boundaries, but in a way, those poor boundaries give them a sense of control, right? They can keep overextending themselves and potentially getting ahead of or avoiding this sort of fear, even if it's a unlikely fear of being rejected or of being abandoned. And so they won't have good boundaries and they'll keep doing what is asked of them to avoid that. Now, this can play out in lots of ways. It can play out sexually, a person sort of giving in to sexual behaviors, practices, and asks that they don't feel comfortable with. It really isn't consensual, but they do it because they're afraid of being abandoned by a partner. Or a person agreeing to do unpleasant tasks in a social situation, in a workplace, so they won't be rejected. We've seen that in styles that, for example, have been labeled dependent personality styles. I'm not a fan of the term, but it's the sense of a person who feels that I won't be able to function in the world alone if people leave me. So I'm going to agree to whatever they're asking me to do, or do things that I don't want to do, or eat foods I don't want to eat, or go places I don't want to go, because I don't want to be left and then have to take care of myself, which I don't feel like I can do. The fear of rejection and the fear of abandonment are profound fears, and people really will mobilize themselves in many ways to avoid it. But having poor boundaries can be part of that. So if a person has those fears, I really struggle with being afraid of being rejected, I really struggle with the fear of abandonment, that becomes a wake-up call to say, and is this manifesting and is this playing out in how I set boundaries? Now, when we think about mental health and mental illness, poor boundaries play a role in a lot of presentations in mental health. We definitely see poor boundaries in a lot of, for example, personality disorders, which is a core interest of mine that I share on MedCircle all the time. We see it pretty much across the board in every form of personality disorder, not even just the antagonistic high conflict ones, but all of them. And some of it really reflects sort of the difficulties with intimacy and empathy that cut across all personality disorders. Either a person has absolutely extreme boundaries, or they have sort of intrusively strange boundaries, like we see, for example, in a schizotypal personality, where a person will come up to someone and do or say strange things to them. We definitely see struggles with boundaries and poor boundaries in personality issues like borderline personality, which tracks because there's a tremendous fear of abandonment. The entitlement we see in a narcissistic personality could definitely be associated with poor boundaries. We see it in psychopathy or antisocial personality, where a person might have poor boundaries to the degree that they engage in boundary violations for themselves or others to get what they need. We see it across more of the sort of anxious personality disorders. People with avoidant personalities often really have poor boundaries because they don't feel socially skilled and often feel that they have to give in to what other people want. And we see it what used to be called dependent personality. It's, again, on the fence if they're going to keep it. People feel like they have to give in and do things they don't want to so they won't be rejected. We also need to remember that poor boundaries cut across other mental health issues too. Sometimes it's a result of, for example, in a substance use disorder, we might see it as a function of sort of intoxication or impairment, or to be able to get drugs or alcohol. In an anxiety disorder, especially social anxiety, there may be poor boundaries because a person isn't even clear how to set them because they're so afraid of how they're going to get scrutinized. In a person with a mood disorder, there may be some poor boundaries around because of the apathy, because of sort of feeling like, well, why is anyone going to want to spend time with me? And there are sort of behavioral theories of depression where the belief is that a lot of why a person is depressed is that they're not getting enough behavioral reinforcement from the environment and may not know how to do that. But I think we need to keep in mind one thing with poor boundaries. We often think of poor boundaries as the person having poor boundaries for themselves, agreeing to do too much, never saying no. But poor boundaries can manifest in another way. And that's a person violating other people's boundaries. And that's where we see, for example, in the high conflict personality styles, narcissism and antisocial personality being great examples of a person sort of reaching in to where they shouldn't, calling people at all hours, expecting things from people that are not realistic, interrupting their lives, asking them to do more and more and more, asking them inappropriate questions. That is a poor boundary where one person is violating another person's boundary. And I think that's an important part of the boundary conversation. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my full series at watch.medcircle.com.
So there you go. Bullseye, says Hope. Now, while I did have 2 other shorter videos in the queue, Ms. What the Fuck has them queued up, given that we're erring on the shorter side of our live streams and hence for replay crew, you like that one, Colors? Yes. We're going to wrap it up for tonight. So that means Cam Shorty's over for another weekend. But it's been amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. What the Fuck, as always, for running things back there. I appreciate you and I love you. She's like, I'm out. Hey, look, my owl's disappearing. My owl tattoo. Oh, something took a chunk out of my arm. Sadness. You got sadness, sad face, but actual sadness, not sad face. So we'll do what did I say? We've got 2 more in this little subset of Psychology Corner, where we'll stay on this same kind of theme. Let me remind myself. One next week, I think we're going to talk about manipulation, and how we can. Yes, I got it. How we can recognize when we're being manipulated. So it's kind of like manipulation is overstepping of boundaries to a certain degree, right? So how to spot manipulation tactics and how to navigate our way through them, and also how to recognize when we're perhaps being manipulative ourselves, because even passive aggression is a form of manipulation. Then the week after that, we're going to talk about biases, controlled biases that tend to limit our ability to grow and evolve, limit our ability to see different perspectives, limit our ability to have true empathy because of those preconceived notions and biases. So there'll be a few logical fallacies in that show as well. If you're interested in logical fallacies, there is a whole live stream in this Psychology Corner playlist. So thank you all very much. Thank you, mods. Thank you, shorties. Go forth and prosper for your weekend. Thank you, Hope, for sending me that article. I look forward to reading that. I'll see you all next weekend, if not before, on the socials. Probably won't see me in YouTube chats. It's just not where I'm at the moment. But never fear. Spread the shorty word far and wide. And don't forget to check whether you're subscribed or not, because fuck you, YouTube. Anyway, all that to say, that's fantastic. Chat is Bay. I love you all so much. Thank you, Lisa in Motion. Thank you, friends. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thoughts and prayers for you all with snow. Don't forget, next weekend, outside of normal programming, on your Saturday night, Australian Sunday morning, we're doing basically Saturday afternoon, 3 Eastern, TBC to be absolutely locked in. But Tony, shorties around the world. It's going to be a fun one. We're going to have a panel of folks from all around, colors. Set your alarm, set it in your diary if you have one. 3 Eastern next Saturday afternoon, talking about all the fun and regionally peculiar things, different swear words. We're going to have Hedda from South Africa, Moose Ardick, Stephanie, thanks. Yes, definitely. And check out the merch store. I know times are tough on the finances at the moment, but if you're thinking maybe gift for yourself and you want to spread the word, Christmas gifts, Christmas is coming up, spend $50 in store on the merch store and you'll get a free gift with purchase, a cute little thankful fox candle. Doesn't smell like moose stick, apparently. Haven't ordered one, so I can't say for sure. But I love you all very much. Be kind to yourself. Think about those boundaries as being kindness to yourself and actually kindness to others, right? So with that, peace. Peace and boundaries. Peace, boundaries, and bass riffs for Simi. Mwah.
I love you all so very much. We had a blast just chatting and stuff. Things may have gone a bit off the rails. Professional when all else fails. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. We're skating through all the tough things, learning about this and that, defense motions, prosecution, and narcissistic twats. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the all caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. Community, just you and me. Occasionally, Buster and Poppy. It's the whole thing, Miss Shorty swing. Together we make each other happy. 'Cause chat is babe.